podcast, chapter 14, and this is our first recording in English. None of us is native English speakers, so we have something cool to share, so please bear with us if we have a Danglish kind of accent. Today we're visiting Iceland. There's VMware vForum today, and we've been so lucky to have the three Icelandic vExperts to join us in our studio. And we're going to discuss the success of the Icelandic service providers. They have a very interesting culture and different use cases for the multi-cloud world. So thank you all for joining us today, and could you please give a short intro of yourself and your workplace and responsibilities?
Yeah. My name is Carsten Blom. I'm at Arrows, and I'm solution architect there, brandless nevertheless. So
Independent,
yes.
Yeah.
My name is Henrik Münster, VMware SE, currently focusing on NSX, App Defense, Velo Cloud, we realize Network Insight, stuff like that.
Robert Jensen, also working for VMware, Cloud Management Specialist.
Lars, working for Oracle as a consultant.
Yeah, I'm Martin, and I work for Thekking, a service provider in Iceland.
And I'm Olav from Advania here in Iceland, the Icelandic brand of Advania.
Could you, just to get started, can you just give an introduction to the Icelandic landscape? Not just nature, which is fantastic, but more like the service provider landscape and customers and use cases.
Yeah, of course. Of course, here in Iceland, it's a quite small country, only with 350,000 people here, and maybe not that many legal entities. So it tends to be a quite small market in the global space, but I think that it's a really healthy market because there is a lot of competition, a lot of technical companies that are trying to compete and do some new cool stuff. So it's maybe a boiling pot for new technology.
Yeah.
Yeah, also normal Icelandic company is not so big, so it's not so much of a trouble for them to change companies for service providers. So if they get a better price or better service, they can, they don't have to plan for 5 years to migrate the services. They can just do it in 1 or 2 months time. So if they have a contract for 3 years at one service provider, it's pretty easy for them to migrate between companies. All the service provider personnel have worked together at some point because it's a small market also for us as employees. So we pretty much all know each other. Mm-hmm. So when we have the project to migrate a customer, it's just a call between us guys and we'll take care of it. So it's easy for customers to be at the place they want to be at. So it's
also because of the small market here in Iceland, the baseline of the service provider is very similar. So every company here in Iceland, they offer the same base services. Mm-hmm. So you're basically following maybe some trends in the service, not the technology, but then the service provider gets to happy to adjust to a new technology. Mm-hmm. You get base services, and then service provider have something extra for the time being.
So how is that working for, now you're talking about mostly about the customers from Iceland. Mm-hmm. How about the customers from EMEA or other parts of the world? Is that a bigger challenge of a project, or is that the same kind of movement between the different service providers?
I think the service providers here in Iceland, they have been mainly focused on the local market. Everyone has tried to enter new markets like in the Nordics or but with a little success, because there is a culture thing from Iceland to just the Nordics, and even more just if you go to Western Europe. We are always trying. And of course we have a 30 milliseconds latency to Iceland.
Yeah, that's what I also wanted to ask about.
And that is also an issue.
Yeah.
We have a saying that workloads are moving to the cloud, but we as a service provider here are like part of the cloud. There's a lot of systems that don't work quite well over high latency. So some years ago there was some marketing going on to get Iceland as a main data center location for every workload in the world. Because of latency, you have to select what workloads you can outsource to a company with 50 millisecond latency. So dependent on workloads, what are suitable to being in a foreign country.
Yeah, and that's kind of the same issue with the big public cloud providers today.
Yeah, and then new all the public cloud vendors like AWS, they are putting on new data center as close to the market they are serving today. They're expanding where the customers are. I think the only success we have had here in Iceland, a big success is HPC workloads, where you just bring in data, you crunch it, and then move it back out.
So that's a big use case here, or
Yeah,
a potential market.
Yeah, and Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, and Bitcoin.
Yeah, a lot of mining.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have quite large mining facilities.
Yeah.
I thought I read about 747s or something, cargo editions being flying up here just for
I actually think that is a myth. Maybe. Yeah. But we have few megawatts or tens of megawatts used here in Iceland just to mine bitcoins and for HPC workloads. And there's been done a lot of cool stuff in the HPC workspace that was maybe companies were unable to do.
And you have good environment for or good initial facilities for huge data centers, right? Energy-wise, cooling-wise, stuff like that.
Of course, there's for the companies that are maybe manufacturing parts or stuff, they tend to be really environmental friendly companies. So they want to have the end-to-end manufacturing carbon neutral or without as little risk of damaging the nature. So they often choose Iceland just because of that part.
Yeah, and you have like a unique way of your like power plants. You were so nice to drive me a bit around Iceland. We saw your power plants.
All geothermal or hydroelectric. So
so it's based on steam, existing steam, because you have
we have no coal. We don't use coal or anything like that to produce our electricity. So it's totally carbon neutral.
I think for the environmental side, it's renewable energy, and also because of low temperatures, it's
natural cooling.
Yeah, it's just natural cooling. You don't have to put as much energy into creating the coolant.
Yeah.
So
energy efficiency is really good here in Iceland.
So it's a financial benefit to.
So any company, globally wise, if they have the right application workload, and they have a green kind of, they want to be green, market wise, then Iceland would be a really good fit.
Okay.
I think there are public companies that publicly speaks about the HPC here, not that one is specific, but like BMW, they have a lot of their HPC workload here just because of the green and the environment. So
if I remember correctly, I actually think the Danish weather forecast, their supercomputer is placed here.
They have a large supercomputer. It's like a collaboration between Icelandic and Danish weather system. They choose to have it running here in Iceland.
So you are responsible for our weather, right?
That's the reason you have 70 degrees.
I have a weather hotline number you can call.
So after 5 minutes in Iceland, you have like had all weathers, like sun, rain, hail, snow.
Yesterday was pretty good day. We had all the weathers.
What I also think is like you are well known of early adopters of technology. I think we saw it with VMware and with Veeam as well, maybe. I don't know, you're fast thinkers or what is happening?
We're actually really close to the market. So we, as a technician, you are maybe a personal friend to the IT personnel in many companies. We can push technology and talk about technology really close to the IT market here in Iceland. So, and of course the companies are really small and they are really quick to adopt new technology because it's just easy.
Yeah.
They maybe have 50 or 100 employees. That's a big company in Iceland. So.
Yeah, and also is it kind of rumor based? So if something works, or
yeah, everybody knows what the NASCAR is doing. So if something comes along and somebody tests it, it will be very quick for the word to spread around. So it's easy to implement new stuff.
And when I sent the agenda, I was like, then you need to be differentiated, some kind to be unique service provider. But then Olafur, he actually said it was sometimes the opposite, because when something cool is happening,
everyone was on board.
To do it.
Yeah.
So both the good and the bad, like if something doesn't work, I'm sure people will know as well.
Yeah.
So.
The service providers here in Iceland, they have tried to differentiate themselves by offering different kinds of service to the customer, how they handle the service to the customer. Maybe building up on the same technology base, but how they handle the service delivery to the customer. I'm not sure. Maybe Lalli has something to talk about that, because he is more into project management and consulting to the customers more than we are.
Yeah, it tends to sometimes when you're implementing new technology here in Iceland, it tends to be very maybe focused on cool new things, even though business itself doesn't really need it. And sometimes the motivation of implementing something is sometimes not just right. So somebody says some backup solution works fine, and they want to change what they have now because and they want to go all the way, but then they have to fulfill a specific data retention policy or something like that, and then they can't go, and then all of a sudden they have two solutions, and then they just have more work to do. And it sometimes happens when that you're actually just adding more work for you, so more management and more operations.
Okay.
It's sometimes good to just stand a little bit back and see how it fits your operational side. So maybe that's probably more based on per company, so internal configurations of backup or disaster recovery, it doesn't matter what it is. Not so much on a service provider. As always said, I work more with each company. So I help our service provider side of the company as well. I'll help them create the policies and all the what should be done when we're implementing new customers. And
now you talk about like the implementations. How do you use automation for your customers and stuff like that?
That's the goal, but automation is really not something which you can buy from a box. No. If you don't have the correct operational side and don't have maybe even the knowledge within the companies, it's very hard to implement any automation at all, because you don't automate something you don't have. So if you don't have the processes how to implement a new customer or implement a new virtual machine or anything like that, you can't really automate it other than creating a script or something like that. It's like if you don't have a VM lifecycle management or something like that, so how are you going to create a virtual machine, how are you going to manage it, and how are you going to end its life in some way, so it doesn't matter how it's done. It's hard to say, okay, I'm going to automate because I just want to automate. It's a cool word. So it's been hard to educate people that it's a process. You can't start with buying your own private cloud. if you don't know what's it about. So you haven't been on the side of creating the processes, how you're gonna go from where you are and how you're gonna use private cloud. Because even though it looks very good in your board director meetings saying, as we bought one of those private clouds, it's a very good chance that it's not working and probably breaking all the time, and it's not getting used and not getting used for the business, and probably bought for the wrong reasons, and the security is off, and a lot of things you have to.
That's actually very much aligned with what we have experienced previously. I used to talk cloud management and automation stuff as well, like Robert does. And if you just, if you start talking automation and consuming a service, it's not all about the technology anymore. Mm-hmm. It's more about, like you said, the people and the processes, because you can buy your private cloud, put it in a corner, no one will use it because you don't have any process internally. Maybe the geeky guys will use it for Minecraft servers or whatever, but as a company, you probably won't be able to gain the benefit from it if you don't have those required processes in place.
And that is also the main reason for the success here in Iceland, and the competition between the service providers in Iceland, between like Origo, Tekking and Atlania, because we compete on those processes. We have the same technology base, but we're selling them how we are handling the processes for the companies themselves. So we take our internal processes that we have developed and present them to the companies and try to get them on board to come into our hosting division or something like that, because we have processes that fits their business needs.
Yeah, I think for a normal medium-sized company in Iceland, it has maybe 5 or 10 VMs running. So it's not like a normal company in Iceland has 5,000 employees and they have to develop a lot of stuff and deliver services. So for a smaller company like that, spending one employee just doing automation on 5 VMs, it doesn't. It's not cheap. So
it all adds up, right? You say you have majority of small customers, small companies here in Iceland, and at least to my experience, I think smaller companies, they're more agile, they can switch technologies faster.
Yeah.
They also tend, in my opinion, to be a bit more technology focused versus, you could say, like automation is like and the processes are a bit higher level, a little higher up in the management hierarchy in the company, you could say, more business focused, financially focused. So that makes perfectly sense in my opinion.
Yeah, but like Laura said earlier about the reason why we implement technology has to always be a business benefit for the customer. So that sometimes if a company wants just to install this product because it's a cool product, you have to ask, why do you need the processes or the functions or the product? So sometimes in an agile environment, people just install technology because of technology.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
because it's cool.
Yeah. and like for our company, we are a small company, but try to focus on helping our customers to do their business with the help of technology. So we try to ask them, what are your processes for your business? And then we'll have this technology and this technology to help you do that. So it's so we try to, as service provider, to have available technologies installed in our data centers to offer a choice to our customers, because we have very different types of customers and one technology doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah. So talking about the services you are providing and the processes behind that and the differentiators between those, between your companies, do you also, are you moving companies from one host to another? Or are they buying, going into the multi-cloud aspect, buying one service from one provider, one service from another, because you have this differentiation between the services?
Yeah, definitely. We're always looking at the needs of the customer, because some customers, they're not beneficial of being hosted maybe in a local data center here in Iceland. Of course, like everyone who comes to Iceland sees about the big tourist boom here in Iceland. Why should we host ticket sales for a trip to the Blue Lagoon or whatever in a data center in Iceland, where the majority of the customers are maybe based in the United States or maybe in Germany? So you want to have the services fit to the business needs of the customer. So maybe a AWS cloud in Germany would be the best fit for a ticket system if 90% of our tourists are buying tickets from Germany. So
we like in our case, because we are a smaller company, we are working with Advania and Nieri and all the other companies, and they are maybe providing some services or some products that we are not offering. Then maybe the customer has his workload in my data center, but is also a customer of Advania for some other services. So it's quite common for companies to pull in resources from different companies. So it's a collaboration between us to do a good service for that particular customer.
That's good, because it's not really what I hear in the Danish market, or say yet, but companies are talking about that, and also the providers are talking about going into that multi-cloud kind of way of thinking.
Yeah, because like everybody is moving their email to Office 365.
Yeah.
If we were going to take a stance here in Iceland that you have to be running on-prem Exchange in our data center if you're going to do Outlook or those services, then the customer will just talk to the next guy and say, okay, I'll just move you to the Microsoft Office environment, and you will not be the one providing services, because end users need services also. So even though the workload is moved to the Microsoft data center, the end users need support, and if you're gonna say no, we're not gonna take part of this, then you're gonna lose the end user support. So it's an ecosystem between all the providers and all available options.
Talking about the security around the customers, and also going into the different kinds of clouds or service providers, how do you handle that for the customers? How do you provide services around the security for your customers?
Yeah, I can start. Yeah, like for my customer base, in my company we try to manage all IT services for our customers. And our typical customer doesn't have any IT staff on site. So what we do is we try to organize all the communications to the other companies that are maybe hosting or providing services. So the customer itself will only have to talk to us, and we will propagate those tickets to the correct vendor or place that needs to do stuff. So we take care of the networking side and the login information and provide that to the customer. So the customer doesn't have to handle different accounts as multiple providers. So that's something that we are trying to focus to be the single point of contact, and then propagating services from other companies to that customer. So that's how we do it, at least to be the middleman for different services.
Yeah, and service providers, when you enter a service provider agreement, you get access to highly skilled security teams that are really focused on educating the companies about security. Of course, in the last 2 or 3 years, most of all companies have read about some breaches or data leakage, so they're really aware that needs to be in place within the service provider, a security team that is only focused on doing internal audits and audits on the companies themselves, and helping the companies keeping their data safe and basically keeping their employees safe, because there's a lot of sensitive information flowing around internally in a service provider.
As for a service provider, I think most of the service providers here in Iceland rely on ISO 27001. So it's a more of a data security certification security. So we sell it externally, that we already have most of the things which it's stated in the ISO to how we protect the data, and that's one selling point which most of the service providers have. So I think all the service providers here in Iceland, doesn't matter which one it is, have that certification.
So do you sell that as a service? Or
No, it's more
just
of
more like a selling point.
Yeah, we have those processes, and we do what what it tells us to how you should monitor the data and how you should protect it and such. So it's like one of the annexes there says you should be able to offer a disaster recovery solution. And that's something that maybe the service provider can offer. And say you're trying to do that, and one is you're agreeing on a specific SLA and uptime and everything, and so that's one thing a service provider always offers. So you have an SLA, an uptime SLA, and that is also stated there, and you can go from there and even offer a PCI compliant environment, and you can offer a specific encryption because the company is working with sensitive data, and then you need to make sure that their environment, if you're hosting it for them, it is either isolated or protected in a specific way, and their backups are protected in a specific way, because you need to focus on all the available attack points, really.
So does that also serve as a guidance for your customer? That's also a value add, maybe.
Yes, it's a value add.
Yeah, definitely. Because often the customer doesn't know what or how to implement those policies. They just need those level of security, but they don't know the processes behind what need to be done. So we are providing that service to the customer. So you have to do this to be compliant with your requirements.
And we can probably talk about GDPR like for 1 hour now.
But
that's not.
How does that, of course, but how does in short affect?
It's the same as everything. Very simply put, it's just user data, so you can have to protect any personal information about users. So it doesn't matter where it is. You can say it's credit card data, only just human form of birth dates and names and social security numbers and stuff like that, and you have to protect it in a similar way. So just trying to make sure when you get breached, it's protected as much as possible.
And you say when?
I say when. Yes. I don't say if.
No.
Yeah. And one thing about that is you have to know what data you're having. You can't say, I didn't know this customer had this data. You have to know that he has data that complies or are protected by the GDPR. So you have to have process to analyze, to tell the customer, okay, if you're storing personal information about your employees, that has to be protected in a certain way, and you have to know that this database or this set of data is containing personal data. So you have to dig down into the data set with the customer and make them aware that this is personal data and this is customer data. They have to put in some time to analyze their workflows and services they are providing. So that's we have some people just focusing on this just as a consultants out to customers, just to help them out figuring out what data they have about their customers per se in their ERP systems. Is this something that we don't need to store? Is it something that if the customer requested the data to be removed, how are the processes of doing that? So
it gets very complicated as well when you maybe offer a public cloud offering like vCloud Director and stuff like that from VMware. We don't really control what people put into the cloud. So even though we are hosting it on our spindles and processing the data on our CPUs, just renting the CPU cycles. So it's a very gray area of like, are we gonna really scan this data? And we have, there are tools to do that in VMware to scan the data without anybody knowing it. And so that's a gray area if that should be done for that. And if that's something that needs to be, checked, the public cloud offering can't really connect in any way to your really managed service providing side, which is probably most of the customers here are managed services. So we have, we control the virtual machines and almost the operating system as well. And in most cases, maybe the system which runs up on top of the operating system. But in the others, like I said, on the public cloud offering, it gets very, very hard to monitor that as well. So you could get a customer from abroad, which we had some on our offering there in Uruguay, and you need to monitor and make sure that they are not, using an instance in our cloud to attack other clouds. So how do you monitor that and make sure that you can at least put it in the agreement, which is that doesn't allow that, and the connection will be terminated, etc.
So how did you notice that?
There are ways.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. There are ways. Great. But that's also well to know that that's well taken care of if you put your data at a service provider, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of things that you need to consider, especially when all these new security measures or controls needs to be reinforced. So it doesn't make the service provider landscape any more simpler, really. It just makes it more and more complicated. And in some cases it even increases the prices which you have to offer to the customer, because you say, I'm just going to isolate it, or I'm going to isolate this, and when GDPR comes in and the customer says, I don't want to be on shared storage because of something, even though you try to tell them, well, it's not that simple, but they say, well, I want that option, even though, because you can always offer them if you come to a service provider and say, okay, I offer you this box of resources. You can either buy shared storage or private storage. So, and some customers don't care. Just I want private storage because I have my reasons.
And how do you see micro segmentation as a tool?
Yes.
For some of that.
Yes, it does not micro segmentation with NSX, in my opinion. It's not a button that fixes everything security. It's a tools that enable you to heighten the security level, but it doesn't do it on itself. I mean, security is right from physical access and how we build up the data centers to how the users access their application. But microsegmentation solves an issue for a lot of customers in preventing stuff from spreading around or help isolating individual customers' applications or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's one of a bunch of tools that you need to use to build the entire security portfolio, in my opinion.
I was just thinking if it simplified somehow your work.
Doesn't simplify it, but it gives you a lot of options. Because when you implement microsegmentation with NSX, it gives you access to so much information than the network guys can really give you.
Yeah.
And also you can implement your own solution on Trend Micro or Syntec, or doesn't matter, and implement that within that. So let's say you're a Trend Micro shop, and then you can say, okay, how can I offer that and protect the data which we are housing and offer that as a service externally to the customer, and also with like new stuff like I'm not sure what's called, threat analysis tool from VMware.
I think about app defense.
Yeah, something like that. So you can use that as well to even increase the security, which you couldn't do really on a legacy network, but you have this big firewall box.
Yeah, it's like when you have a traditional firewall system between customers, and they protect each customer from each other, and you have set it up so this customer can't affect this customer, but the microsegmentation really protects the customer itself from itself. So, so if there's something virus or something rogue happening in one service at that customer, it won't affect other services for that particular customer. So it's a finer granularity of protection within a customer. So it's like it's not a total solution for every security issue. It's just finer, grainer detail on services. So you can isolate viruses and set security policies inside of a customer pool of servers. So
also, in my opinion, you just said the key word that I use it often, granularity, or the resolution of where you can implement filtering, or whatever you would call it, firewalling, between various instances of virtual machines. That's the game changer, in my opinion. Also, that you can implement it without changing anything of what you have currently, network architecture-wise. So, like I said in the keynote there, if Robert starts provisioning new services using real-time automation, for instance, he can build in security as a part of the design.
Yeah.
But what about the hundreds of VMs you already have? You can't start re-subnetting or re-IPing or because you want to do firewall. That's where the firewall with the awareness of the logical role of the virtualized environment has its strengths, in my opinion.
Yeah, you normally get from a networking-minded guy talking about like onions, where you have the internet and then you have your external network and your internal network and maybe a database network, and creates like an onion with firewalls in between. And I was talking to a guy that was describing this as a good idea, and I said, no, just every single item is a security boundary. So, and he just looked at me, what are you talking about? You're not going to implement a firewall between all. How are you going to? Yeah, you can. You just use VMware and NSX. It's designed that it's already there. So, but for a normal, like physical-minded networking guy, that's a mind blower. To have you just implement policies on each VM. You're not going to put a physical firewall between each.
That would be a nice weekend job, right?
Yeah, being just able to distribute the load on the firewall, because you're now going to be able to handle tens and tens of gigabits of traffic in one box from a vendor. You have to distribute the load, and what is the best way to do that? It's just put it in the kernel, in the compute resources that you have spread out all over the data center that you have.
And the other way around would be quite expensive.
Yeah. And looking back on the talk we had just before about the processes, good luck. In the automation part.
Thank you for joining the Arrow podcast. I was very exciting for us to hear about your idea of things and how you add value and all that. So yeah, all there is to say is thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.